المكتب التعاوني للدعوة والإرشاد وتوعية الجاليات بأبها.
Assalamu alaikum, my kindest greetings to you. We've been talking about significant moments in my life, in my journey to become a Muslim. Some time ago, I read a very interesting article about a woman who became a Muslim. And it was so strange. She said that she had not become a Muslim because she found Islam so foreign. And I was struck by that because to me Islam seemed so very close to what I actually was familiar with, coming from a very conservative, very orthodox Catholic family. And I jotted down some of the things that I found that were so familiar, were so common to me, that were so part of my everyday life in a very conservative upbringing. Those of you who are perhaps either Catholics or Russian Orthodox or Eastern Orthodox will be very familiar with what Islam offers. And I just noted some of the things down. First of all, schools, Catholic schools, right until 50 years ago, boys and girls were separated. There were girls' schools and there were boys' schools. There's nothing that I found in Islam that conflicts with my own experience with the separation of boys and girls. The second thing about hijab, everybody makes a huge issue about women being modestly dressed and covering themselves. Well, what about Catholic nuns? Right until 30, 40 years ago, Catholic nuns wore full hijab. The only difference was that they didn't have the veil covering the mouth. The veil went a bit lower and covered the neck. Look at any statue of the Virgin Mary and you will see that she is in full hijab. There's nothing conflicting about the covering of the female body to preserve modesty. I can remember certainly right until 60, 70 years ago, that especially girls at school also, in Catholic schools, also wore extremely modest clothing and covered their hair. Look at an imam, the leader of prayer in the Islamic context, and look at a priest. They're dressed in exactly the same way. Consider the Pope. He wears that skull cap. Well, so do imams. So do Muslim men. They wear that skull cap underneath the veil that covers their hair. They wear long floor-length thobes. There's nothing wrong with, there's nothing there that conflicted with what I understood to be familiar or common. The link between education and faith. Well, what about universities like Oxford and Cambridge? They started as universities, but universities for the training of religious personnel who would go out into the world to serve their communities. Well, that is what education in Islam believes as well. Only we don't call them Oxford and Cambridge, we call them madrasas. In both Islam and in Catholicism, in Orthodox religions, we have pilgrimages. In Islam, we have a pilgrimage to Mecca or to Medina, whereas certainly in the Anglican Church, pilgrimages to Canterbury. The Catholics, pilgrimages to Lourdes, pilgrimages to the Vatican. There was nothing foreign that I found that conflicted with how I viewed what the ordinary life of a Muslim would be. What about prayers? Well, anybody who's been to a Catholic school would know you pray 8 times a day. whereas amongst the Muslims, it's 5 times a day. The articles of faith, the faith of believing in God, believing in the holy books, believing in the angels, believing in redemption, believing in the return of Jesus, believing in the redemption of faith. These things are common to both Islam and Christianity. No, I did not find that Islam was contrary to what I was familiar with at all. Assalamu alaikum.